Principle number 2 says meanings contain states of mind. Now, in the first principle, we talked about the fact that we create meaning, that we assign meaning to things. Now, this principle talks about how we create the meaning. Where does the meaning come from that we assign to things in our lives? Okay, so we're going to start with just placing a figure here. It's going to be a human. And I will actually expand this idea of states of mind into what I would call inner states. So this is a little bit of an expansion on what Pavel says, but I think he contains all of that in it. So we can think of different layers of us. We have, of course, our mind, our mental state, which is connected to patterns of our thinking, but the mental state is also connected to our emotional state, as well as the state of our body, our physical state. So we can, for example, be in pain. That will influence our mental state. So the level of comfort that we have, well, I'm going to just say level of comfort, how comfortable we feel in a place, for example, around certain people, or as I said, if we experience pains, that will change our state. And then also how regulated our nervous system is. Nervous system. This is why nowadays nervous system work becomes so important. And that all is, of course, interconnected. So our emotional state, if we are happy, sad, excited, jealous, worried, all of those make us feel differently, and they can, for example, bring our nervous system out of balance. So we can be happy. I'm just gonna put a few examples here. Happy, sad, worried, or excited, or like angry. There are many different ways. And especially this emotional state is in a flow state. It's never just one. It can be many, many different things. And then, as I said, all of this together kind of determines our mental state. Together with patterns of thinking. Now we have people that always see the glasses half empty, others always see the glasses as half full. So we can have a more positive or negative kind of ground level. But in general, this is really about patterns of thinking and of understanding the world that also come from our experiences. And there's, of course, more ways in which we can explore that, but that just as a first image of how we can think about that. So how does that connect to meaning now? When we have something happening in our life, I'm just gonna place a triangle here as an event in our life. So this is a life event. Something is happening. I get a new job, for example, or something happens in my family. No, any life event or experience, for example. Now, the way that I interpret this life event, whatever it is determined by my entire state, by this fluctuating state, by the emotions that I feel, by my patterns of thinking, by my physical state. So all of this together determines how I assign meaning. So on a day where I'm super positive, like I wake up and I'm happy, my mind is clear, my body feels energized, I will interpret a life event, even a challenging life event, more positive than on a day where I wake up and I think about terrible things first. No, I watch the news, for example, and I'm worried and I have like this backache that never stops. No, that's going to make me interpret a life event completely different. Now, how can we work with that in drawing? When we work on a drawing, there's many different things that can help us. For those of you that work with the first algorithm, for example, whenever we first put a life event onto the piece of paper, it might look like that. It might look like a weird thing. It might make me feel worried, for example. So with the help of drawing, I can become aware of my inner state, because often those things are actually unconscious to us. No, they're kind of buried in my subconscious. I'm not always completely aware how this influences my meaning making, but once I start drawing a picture, I will see in the process, by self-observation and by also just observing the process of my picture, what kind of state I'm in. I can, for example, see that maybe I put into my picture a big element that stands for a problem. No, and I focus on that and I put it in the foreground and it's super big. Or I put in the foreground a very, very big element that I assign the meaning of everything's going to be all right, or I assign the meaning of I'm protected, or I assign the meaning of I have help. So we can actively bring different elements into our picture that will influence our state. So when, for example, I bring this big element into my picture that I assign the meaning, this is like something that makes me feel good, then with it, I can actually change my inner state. I can feel more relaxed. And then, of course, we have several different steps in the process that make many people feel more relaxed. For example, the grounding. So we can actually, through the drawing, influence our inner state, which is very interesting. So it can go to where I make a drawing that makes me feel good, and then it can reflect back on my mental state, on my emotions, on my physical state. Pavel calls this the gestalt of our theme. So we bring our theme into the piece of paper. So this would be my life event and it would look a certain way. And the way I create and change that will change the gestalt, which is the shape or the form of this theme. And when I change that, with it, I can change my inner state. And then I can change the meaning that I give to things. So this is a very interesting and quite complex process. But yeah, so by creating a more relaxed inner state with the help of drawing, making the drawing meditative, for example, making it comfortable, making it to where I like my picture at the end, that can help me create more positive meanings and then in the end interpret my life event in a different way. So if I saw it as a big challenge that was like almost too big in the beginning, now I can see it as an opportunity, for example. So this is how meanings contain the inner states.